Hi guys, it's Arsh Ellahi, and in today's session I've got something really valuable for you as a top tip for all HMO owners and property owners. So I'm going to be telling you how you can save money on your utility bills in your HMO. Now before we do that, I want to say a quick hello to all subscribers, all listeners and all watchers of the channel. If you're completely new to the channel, why don't you press that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Every time I release a new video, you'll get a notification say it's up there. So let me ask you the question, do you own a HMO? If so, are all the bills included? Are you including electricity? Are you including the gas and central heating? And is that having a negative effect on your cash flow? If so, today's session is going to be valuable for you. I'm going to be talking to you about a company that has been introduced to me called Metro Prepaid. And what they tend to do is supply landlords, or you can buy meters off Metro Prepaid, which allow the tenants to control their usage and also collect payments so that the electricity and gas is not coming out of your own pocket. I'm also in this video going to show you a live example as to how I've fitted these meters into one of my properties and how it's working on a practical level. So let me tell you a little bit about the product. So here we are. Here's one of the meters that has been delivered to my office. Like I said, it's called Metro Prepaid, and it's a prepayment meter for tenants. It collects payments and it controls the usage, and you can see that we've got a picture of the meter there. Now, how it works is that we install one of these meters, and I'm going to do a live opening of the box in a second. I feel like one of these kids that are opening one of these toys on YouTube. So I'm going to be unboxing the meter so you can have a real good look at how these meters look and how they feel, and you can see how robust they are, because as we all know, tenants have heavy hands. And how these meters work is that these meters are all installed in each of the rooms within the HMO. So how it actually works in practically is that each of the rooms have to be wired to their own mini ring main. As a result of that, the meter is then connected to the consumer board, and you'll see how I've done this in one of my HMOs. Now, when a tenant wants to use electricity in that room, they have to ensure that they have sufficient credit on their meter, which they can buy from any PayPoint zone. What's the beauty about this is that they can pay via PayPoint. They can actually go online and do a transfer via Barclays, or they can actually go onto the website, which is metroprepaid.co.uk, and they can buy what they consider power codes. And as a result of that, because Metro Prepaid will already have the tenant's name and phone number, they then get either a text message or an email confirming a 20-digit code, which they then bring back and input into the meter with the digital or with the buttons that you can see in front of you. Once they input the 20-digit code, they then press the red enter code, which then means that they then get an acceptance on the meter, allowing them electricity. So think about this. This is not a new concept, but it's made it more convenient for landlords to control their bills. More importantly, it's made the tenant more aware of what they're using. So let's quickly open this up. So here we have it. Here's a meter in actual fact in all its glory. So when I've opened the box, it comes with a little card. This is a card that they now take to either any PayPoint zone, or this is a unique reference card which will now correlate to the meter serial code. Can you see the serial code right there? So that code will respond back to this card. So every time they make a payment, they will know it's regarding this serial code, and then any code that they put into this meter will then clearly show that it's the credit for that room and will provide that room with electricity. So just so that you know, the landlord will still have a master meter in the property. So as you are right now, you're still paying the electricity and gas for that property. However, what you do, you rewire some of the rooms and you fit some of these meters. And again, a little later on in the video, you'll see how I've done this in one of my properties. And more importantly, you'll see that when the tenant goes and tops up, I think, well, at the start of every month, I get a statement from Metro Prepaid telling me who's topped up and how much they've paid that month. As a result of that, that money is then sent to my bank account, which Metro Prepaid asked from the outset on the setup stage, which is very easy to do. Off the back of that, I receive the funds. I then pay my bill for the main meter, and you'll see this all in the video. So let's have a quick look at the product. It's very strong and it's very robust. So normally this would have a digital, when it's switched on, it'll have a digital display. And you can see that it's got all the details there. So if a tenant has got any issues, they can call the help desk, which is 24 hours a day. They've got the digital, they've got the nice rubber buttons. It's a nice, easy feel. And more importantly, the bottom is where the electrician will wire in all their cables to make sure that the meter is running effectively. It's not very big, it's not very thick, and more importantly, it's very easy to hang and install. If you want to have a look, that's where the meter tails will go into it. So I'm going to be talking to you now about how this works from a practical level. So on the back of the box, it's got a very easy installation guide, and almost like an idiot's guide as to how this works. So you can see there that it says that the existing main meter will still remain in the property, and that's the one that generally is within the utility area. So the house will still have its main meter, and these are what are considered as almost like sub-meters. So as you can see, it's used for sub or secondary metering only, and may not be used as a main or primary meter. So they're very clear that this is not to be used as the main meter. This is as a secondary or sub-meter. It's installed below or downstream of a main meter supplied by your energy supplier. So in the example that I'm going to use in my property, which you'll see in a short while, is that the main supplier is npower. So npower send me a bill every quarter. I then have a look at how much money I've collected from Metro Prepaid, and then I pay my bill to npower. It really is as simple as that. The reason why I also like this is the fact that in a normal HMO, most HMOs will only have one consumer board, one main consumer board. Now, as a result of fitting these meters, each of my rooms now have a mini consumer board in each of the rooms, which means that if something is defective in that room, it will only trip out that room in particular, which means that I don't have to go around the whole house looking for which appliance is defective. Finally, from a point of view as a landlord, I'm now not having to worry about how much electricity or how much gas that property is using, because if it is being used a lot, I can sit there comfortably knowing that the tenants are paying for that. So if they've got their heater on, they've got the washing machine going, if they've got the hot water machine running, they've got the kettle boiling and everything, it's a saying that they must now pay for what they're using, and it works really well. If they've run out of electricity, they then can very simply, they won't have to worry or bother me on a late evening to say that I've run out of electricity. They can go to multiple points, so they can go to a pay point zone, they can go online, they can do a bank transfer, they can pay via PayPal, and they can get electricity instantly, providing that they've got the funds to pay for it. Now, previously, what I was doing, and I'll show you a screenshot here, I was actually using sub-meters very similar to what you can see here, but they were having to purchase the tokens from me directly, which meant that I was always at the tenant's beck and call when they ran out of electricity. And this may be Friday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening, or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, where they're watching TV there and they forgot to put on some electricity. I would then get that call and say, Arsh, would you mind selling me some electricity? Now, I've got two options there. I can either say, sorry, no, it's too late, I'm not coming out, which wouldn't sit well with me, knowing that they're sitting there in the dark. Or alternatively, I can go out and actually sell them a token, but it means that it's very inconvenient. Now, for me, this is the next step along. As I've said, it's very easy for the tenant to pay. They can go to metroprepaid.co.uk. They can call the helpline number. As well as that, they can go to any PayPoint zone which includes most supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Asda, Co-op, etc. They can pay by bank transfer. More importantly, they can go online. So, and all they need to do that is that they need to make sure that they either have the meter prepay, the meter serial code, or they need to have this card. If they go into a supermarket, it is very simple. They present the cashier with this card. The cashier will then scan that barcode, and the tenant will then give the cashier some money. As a result of that, they'll get a receipt, which then has a 20-digit code, and it looks a little something like this. As a result of that, they then take that receipt back to their meter, they input that 20-digit code, and instantly they've got electricity, which means that they're not having to disturb you. They're not having to, they can still have electricity, and it works all round. So here we are, one of the properties where I've actually installed some of the Metro Prepaid meters. So I'm going to show you, we've looked at the opening of the box, we've looked at the products, and I'm going to show you how it actually works actually in a property setting. So I'm going to walk in, this is one of my HMOs, and I'm going to take you into a vacant room, and it's just become vacant. You can see that the electric is all on. So this is just one of a standard room. So tenant only left yesterday, so we've got to get it redressed. Now, if you notice in this room here, it's got its washing machine, it's got its own cooker, it's got its own fridge, it's got its own little hot water machine as well. So I'll show you the hot water machine. There's a hot water machine. So pretty much this room, other than a bathroom, is fully self-sufficient. Now let's have a look at the actual thing that we're looking at today. So this is the Metro Prepaid meter. So if you notice, every room will have its own consumer unit board, which is this here. So if anything trips out in this room, it will not trip out the whole building, it will only trip out in this room. And how it works is, you can see the Metro Prepaid meter. I've still got one of the older style ones, whereas in the video we've actually seen a newer style one. You can see it's got 35 kilowatts still remaining. And how it works, that each meter has its own serial code, which you can see there, 321580738. And so that meter, that serial code will correlate back to Metro Prepaid, so that if a tenant was to pay online, or if a tenant was to pay over the phone or via PayPal, whatever it may be, they will be asked to put in their serial code, that meter serial code. Once they've put in that serial code, Metro Prepaid will be able to identify, yes, this is for room 2-1 Park Crescent, and as a result of that, we know that this is the tenant living in this property, and they've got their details. So what happens is that the tenant now pays for their electricity. Once they've paid their money, they will then either get a text message or an email with a 20-digit code. Now, once they've got that 20-digit code, all they simply do, it's a 20-digit number code. They come in and they type in the numbers, they press enter, and then the meter will say accept. That means that it's accepted the code, and it's now put the actual units onto the meter, allowing them to have electricity. So as you can see in this room, we've got an electric heater. So in this one, it's a little bit of a different setup, because in normal HMOs, you would probably have communal, you'd either have a boiler, a communal boiler, which heats the whole house. But because I've got these meters in, I've decided to let the tenant be responsible for their own energy consumption, which means that if you notice in lots of my HMOs, they won't have all the heating on, they won't have the windows open. And it's a really cost-efficient way of running the property. Now, the money that is collected, so for all the tenants that pay for their electric, at the start of the month, I get a statement from Metro Prepaid. And it tells me which tenant topped up, how much they topped up, how they paid for it. And then therefore, they then send me that money. They take out a commission for it. And then what I tend to do, I tend to then have a look at how much my electricity has cost me. So just so that you know, even though each room has their electricity meter, this is still my master meter. Every property will still have a master meter. So this is what I'm using for the whole building. So in theory, what happens is that the building is consuming electricity, but I'm collecting the money for the electricity. Just to let you know, you can't make a profit on it. You can include the service charge, but you cannot make a profit on it. Have to point that out. So what happens is that the building is consuming electricity. The tenants are paying for their own electricity. That money is then comes back to me minus a few charges. After that, I then pay my bill for this meter, which means that the building, in theory, hasn't cost me anything other than I have to take out an allowance for the consumption of landlord communal areas. And in this property, the only communal areas that I have, the only things that are powered up in the communal areas is the fire alarm, the communal lights, the emergency lighting that we can see at the top there, and also the communal bathrooms, which I'll quickly show you. So I have two communal bathrooms in this property. First one is here. So again, in here, we've got fans, we've got electric showers, etc. But going back to the point, I will still pay for the electricity for the communal areas. The tenants will be paying for the electricity in their rooms. I'll quickly go on to show you how the spreadsheet looks like that I received from Metro Prepaid, and also what it looks like from when a tenant tops up their electricity. So there we have it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed that mini walkthrough of the property, and also the breakdown as to how this product actually looks. So if you've got a HMO and you're worried about the bills or the outgoings, there's no need for it anymore. One thing that I haven't mentioned, and I will touch base on quickly, is that what I found with Metro Prepaid as well, this could have an effect on your valuation of your property. Now, if you know anything about commercial valuations, if a valuer was to come and have a look at your property and they see that you've actually put in, 6 or 7 of these meters, you could potentially argue that your property is no longer just a standard dwelling, because you could say that you've created a commercial entity, which means that you could potentially value your property on a commercial valuation. And here would be my argument. My argument would be very simply is that, can you tell me how many of the properties on this road have 6 or 7 electricity meters? How many of the tenants are now responsible for their own consumption of those properties? So these are some of the conversations that you can have with the valuer, who will then kind of think, well, yeah, in actual fact, that property down the road, even though it's a HMO, only had 1 electricity meter or 1 gas meter. Here, this one, the rooms have been wired up slightly different. It's got the electricity meters. So yes, it's a different product, so that if we were to come and try and repossess this property, we can't really turn it back into a single let because it's got 7 meters. So therefore, it will have an effect, a positive effect, should I say, on commercial valuations. So guys, hopefully you found that video of interest. Hopefully you go off now. Again, please go to the website. If you need further information on the product, it's metroprepaid.co.uk. Have a look at the product. It's got a lot more information on the website about what the product does, how it operates. I've just tried to give you the practical approach as to how I've done it in my portfolio. You've seen it in one of my properties. You've seen that how the tenants are paying for it. You've seen the receipts. You've seen the spreadsheets. I've given you pretty much the A to Z as to how it works on a practical level. The website will show you all the other stuff that I've not been able to mention in this video. As always, guys, if you like more free content, why don't you download the Property Rebel podcast, or why don't you subscribe to the Property Rebel podcast? It's a podcast that I launched early in 2020. We release a new episode every Tuesday at 6 a.m. And we talk about all kinds of stuff. So if you want to know more about commercial valuations, which I just touched on, we've got a whole episode on that. As well as that, you can connect now with me on social media, so you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and the new craze, which is Clubhouse. So you can find me under the handle of Arsh Ellahi. And then finally, I am going to say that, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? It's the UK's only real marketplace where you can find ready-made deals such as below market value deals, rent-to-rent deals, lease option deals, service accommodation deals, commercial deals, and we're going to start to look at other deals such as international properties as well. So if you like the thought of that, why don't you go to either our website, which is propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, just go to your app store, type in Property Investor, and it'll be in the palm of your hand within approximately 2 minutes. So guys, as always, during these testing times, I wish you all to be safe, well and happy, and I will speak to you all very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.